Hey, welcome back to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. I have a training game that I would like to show you because it has so much in it that is so full of possibilities. In a training game, I am not playing to win or lose. I've found a way to use my chess app to train me, to help me see better tactics, to see if as I go through a game and I've just reached a dead end and I'm in trouble, I can take back 5 or 6 moves and try another avenue, take a look at the imbalances, read the chessboard and all that, and then go through the moves again. And if I really truly get stumped, then I ask my chess coach, I call my app Alec. I ask Alec, well, what would you do? And when he shows me his thread, I go, I see, yes. And so I do training games to sharpen my eye, and this is beginning to help me. This particular game holds a lot of information in it, without question. He's playing the red, I'm playing the black. D4, D4, D5, knight C3, knight F6. So we're getting boogieing, and then kablam, he hits my knight. I have to bounce down to here at this point, yes. He went the knight C to E2. I bump up to C5. I like to expand as much as I can in a cramped position. That's what you have to do, I'm telling you. And then he's got a great pawn chain at this point. So I'm going to open up my queen influence, give myself a little bit more room here to work. He brings his knight to F3. I bring out my knight. He goes queen C2. I bump my bishop to E7 so I can castle. He bumps his bishop. Where is his bishop? To E3. So he's got a pretty solid opening, and so do I. I go ahead and choose to castle. And he castles queenside. So this is going to be a battle. They say when you castle opposite sides, it's a pretty good indication that you're in for a heck of a battle. And I am, so I went ahead and took his d-pawn. I'm going to try to open up a little bit more. He put his bishop here. He took it with the bishop. Very interesting. So I came back to C7, of course. And he brought his queen further out on the queen side to defend his king, right? My knight here, I decided I've got a good knight support here. I'm going to take that pawn. I'm going to get away with this, I think. His knight took my knight. And I decided instead of exchanging the knight, because all I'm going to do is have that bishop, well, I mean, if he takes it, I'm going to take the bishop. The field is opening up, and the bishops are going to be better, and I have the bishop pair, so I'm going to take away his bishop pair, so I took his bishop. Because it looks to me like there's not a lot of pawns in the middle of this board, right? His queen took my knight here. And then I came to bishop c5, hitting his queen, target consciousness. He simply bumped down. There was no danger of me taking out his queen, but it gave me a knight. So I'm still even material here. So we've had some skirmishes and some exchanges. I honestly think my pieces are better placed in the center than his at this time, although he does have a really strong central, a partial central open file, although at this point, that's pretty solid pawn. So I'm not too worried about that at this point. He bumps up queen f4, hitting my queen. And I thought, what would be wrong with putting my queen here? Because he castled queenside, I keep my central power, and I have a chance to shift over to here or to here to do a kingside attack if I need to. Although I am nowhere ready to do a kingside attack just yet, right? If I decide to do a kingside attack, well, now he's attacking my queen again. And so just to, there's two, it seemed to me like, you know, the next move here is the bishop up. I'm going to lose places where I can put my queen. I mean, he can pull the rook over here and take away the entire aisle. So I came over here to queen a4 because there's a chance he won't see my sneaky move, so I can damage his king cover. And of course, he did see my sneaky subtle move. Right? a3, yeah. But look at what this gives me. And I was really excited. Let me show you this again. Sincerely. Here, the cover is pretty good. But he was uncomfortable with me taking that pawn, as he rightly should. So I induced him to push the pawn, and there is a magnificent hole to put my queen. Yeah? Now, a one-piece attack isn't going to do a lot for you, right? I've said that before in a lot of videos. In this game, it holds true also. So bring out your extra bishop coming over to here. I've got my bishop here. Bring out my bishop here. I can push some pawns quick, and I've got my two rooks. So I've got a potential kingside attack on the queen side. He brings his rook over to the partial open file. Notice I haven't had a chance yet to go to open files because I did get my queen out there and she has been kind of floating around. I felt my compensation was getting the hole on the king side where the king castled at this point. So I lack in development, whereas he's fully developed, but I think I've got compensation somewhat, right? So, bishop to d6, I bump down, and now it was at this point, nope, not yet. Knight came to e2. Notice how the last few moves, since I came over to here and took that hole, notice how he has completely put all of his army into defending that king. That is the correct strategy. I'm just saying, you know, if you're gonna get your king attacked, defend him, right? He's a feeble old boy and you gotta help him out. Yeah. It was at this point that I must have tried easily 10 different ways to attack and get to his king. And every one of them failed. Every one of them. And I just, there was, for me and my meager chess ability, when an opponent really puts the defense together, I couldn't break through it. So I took it back to this. Oh, what I had done is I'd done this. And then I thought, I've got him. And then he went to here. And it was from here, it was from here that I attempted to put everything I had into it, pushing my pawns to see how I could break up his king side, getting my rooks involved in the open files, sacrificing some rooks, sacrificing some bishops to break it open and try to checkmate the king, and I couldn't do it. So I took it back to this position. And I asked Alec, I said, okay, what the heck do you do? Because I can't find a win here. It was a heck of an education. Just because he castles and creates a couple of weaknesses around his king doesn't mean you're going to go get him. And I mean, I had my bishops up in here. I was doing everything I could to get the rooks in, to throw these pawns up, bring this rook over. But one time I ended up in a back rank checkmate, believe it or not. I mean, it was astonishing. I couldn't beat this thing. Now for my training games, I'm on a much higher level than I can possibly beat. That's the idea of the training game. I want it to show me where the good moves are after I attempt to, one, guess what the next move is that the app would do, and then when I see I had the right idea or whatever, yeah, and I go ahead and play through it. And if I had the wrong idea, then I back off and I attempt to try to do something on my own. Anyway, back and forth for training purposes, this was exceptionally good for me to do because that is a great defense. Seriously. And I couldn't break it. So I asked him, all right, your turn. Your turn. The first thing he did was this. I thought, yeah, all right, cool. I do not understand the intricacies of all of this. And then king comes to d2. Now that king is surrounded by help. d4, trying to break through. g3, solidifying his pawn chain. Queen out to d5. That is what I did not do. Alekin did do that. Now, I don't mean Alexander Alekin. I mean my chess app that I have personally, my coach, I call Alekin just for the fun of it, right? Knight takes the d4, not the pawn. That gives him a fantastic central knight outpost. That occurred in one or two of my different attempts as well. So what I did was, what Alekin did was queen h5. And I thought, holy crap, what are you doing? King comes to c1, rook f to d8. And I go, all right, bishop to e4, rook a to b8, and he went rook to d2, and Alekin went bishop to e8, and he went rook e to d1, and then bishop to c5, hitting the outpost of knight, and then he went c4, very interesting, and then rook up to d7, and then bishop down to f3, hitting the queen, and queen to h6, bump down so it doesn't get taken very fast, right? And then bishop back to e4, and then rook b to d8. And finally, queen to c3, and here I thought, okay, it's built up to double rooks on a file, double rooks challenging the file. The knight is supported by the queen. The bishop is attacking the knight. We have potentially a really decent attack. In the worst case scenario, a bishop can zip up to here and hit that rook and stop the double rooks. The rook would have to move over and stop the double rooks as a defensive technique, right? So here's what happened next that just stunned me. It positively blew me away. I did not expect this. Although every attempt I tried did not work. Watch what Alekin did. My buddy Alekin. I should say that because somebody's going to misunderstand. I'm talking about Alexander Alekin. This is not one of Alexander Alekin's games. No. I call my app Alekin. I just want to make sure that's clear, right? Let's keep the context. For the love of St. Pete. Now, it begins with bishop takes d4. Okay? And rook takes d4. Okay? So far, so good. And then rook takes d4. Okay? So far, so still good. And then rook takes d4. And here I realized that if he would have taken just one more move to put the queen here, heck, he could put the queen here now, then he could pin that rook to the queen. That would have been a strong move, I'm thinking, right? That is not what Alekin did. Alekin took the rook with the rook. And I'm going, okay. And then the queen takes the rook. And then, queen comes through the other side. And I thought, wow, liquidation down to an end game with queens and bishops, and black got the breakthrough to the king. Now that's something I would have never thought of, ever. And so I thought, okay, very interesting insight here. A possible use for my future, right? Well, the bishop takes the d7 pawn, of course. That's a free pawn for the taking. And then the queen takes g3, and she is eliminating this side. And observe, the one thing I noticed immediately was, wait, look at this, a vast majority of pawns against a single pawn. No wonder it took it to an end game. Yeah? And I thought, okay, there's a method to this unbelievably interesting madness of complete liquidation of all your attacking pieces against a castled king. Okay? Just one of the things I really was, wow, okay, this gets real interesting, really cool. King to d2, f6 gently bumping up, queen to e3. Let's swap queens. Interesting. Swap queens? No. Queen comes to h2, check. King goes to c3. Bishop comes to g6, cutting a slice right toward that king. He's going to try to contain the king, yeah? He's got a slice here to this pawn. He's got a very strong slice here that's going to keep that king over here. He's going to keep the king over here because perhaps he wants to push one of these or two of these of the majority in a very much endgame, yeah? So I'm thinking, okay, this is a good observation. Let's keep watching what happens. Bishop comes to e4, very powerful centralization. And at this point, he's forcing the exchange of the bishops. That, keeping the king at bay here, was strong enough that he said, okay, let's get rid of the bishops. That is too good. So they swap bishops. Boom, boom. Queen centralized, but only a single pawn, and pawn's here. He's got a target right now. Yeah, kind of interesting. And queen to g3 check. And king comes to d4. And now he pushes h5. Aha. Going to be a very interesting endgame. Queen comes down here to e8, a8 check, of course, and the king will bump up, but look at what it's doing. Queen to b8 because it wants to protect this pawn and take this pawn. Yeah? So that's kind of interesting. So queen comes to f2 check. King comes to e4. Queen goes to b6. Let's swap queens. Look, he wants to swap the queens because there's no way he can lose here. There really isn't. This is exquisitely interesting. So black's thinking he's got a one endgame. Yeah? Yeah. Well, queen came back over to a8, said, nope, I don't want to swap yet. And then queen gets the pawn. So target consciousness. If you're not going to swap the queens, I'm going to whittle you down. And I thought, okay, I see the strategy here. And of course, queen will take the a7 at this point. Yeah, yes. Now, queen e2 check. And queen says, now I'll swap you. And black says, but wait a sec. I have another target I can take before I swap. Check. Observe, it's critically in black's favor now to trade queens. Right? Because he's eliminating as many pawns first as he can. Because he can. This is fantastic. King bumps to f3. And now g5, get rid of that pawn. And queen comes to e4, check to the black king. That's where the queens exchanged. Because he put him in check and he would have got the queen. So he forced the exchange of queens at this point before black's queen does any more damage. Now, and I admit, watching a computer play itself, an app play itself, is not the best way to play chess, but it's very instructive. But since this is a training game, and I watched how it attacked the king, complete liquidation, and then snuck through the back, and then whittled down his pawns, from this point, I said, yeah, let me take over. I can do this. I can practice this endgame pawn game, right? I mean, come on, how hard can it be? So here's what I did. Queen take e4, king take e4. I went to g4. Don't take the pawn. It just gives the king a target. Make him go around the pawn, yeah? So I thought, okay, this is good. I'm going to win. Queen take e4. Queen take e4. Yeah, g4. So king came to e3. And I said, good. Now let's keep these two together. Let's keep these two together. So now I'm thinking, all right, I'll be real curious how a real expert at chess endgames will play me, because I'm just basically a beginner. But I think I can get this in. And he goes to king f2, and I'm thinking, however, I've read in Silman. I haven't gone completely through his endgame course just yet. I'm working on it slowly, way too slowly. But I know I have to keep my king with these pawns. I can't just run those pawns up, or his king will stop them. And he's got a very dangerous pawn over here. I mean, I have to keep the initiative here. That pawn spooks the heck out of me. That's one reason why I wanted to see, can I do this? And I think I can. Yeah, you watch this. You watch this. So, king to g6. King to g6. And now, sure enough, boom. I have to keep this side busy so that he does not have a free move to push that pawn in. Because that pawn is as close as these guys, but if I need to keep these guys together to get one of them in, he's going to have a queen before me. So this is a great endgame practice for me in this training game. I'm really excited about doing this. Yeah? So I go, okay, keep the king occupied, check, right? And the king comes to f3. He also wants to maintain contact with his pawn. So I go e5, let's get rid of that pawn. And it did exchange, and I exchanged. Yes. So I've gotten rid of the pawn problem on this side. I still have that wicked little sucker to worry about. Yeah? And that's worrying me. And sure enough, he's got another move, a5. Now, I really have to do something spectacular. And I found the move. e4 check. He'll take the pawn, and I can get in way before him. Nice. And he stunned me. Whoa, wait a sec. That is not what I want you to do. No, take my pawn, for crying out loud. And then I go to e3. I'm one move ahead of him. He goes a6. I go e2. He goes a7. I go, yes! Glory! I've got this! Queen, baby! Yeah, I've got this. I can do this. This is so cool. And then he, of course, bumped in for the queen. But it's my move. Yeah, baby. So let's go check. Yeah, take that. Take that, buddy. Who's in charge now? Who owns you, baby? Who owns you? I own you. I own you, baby. H2 check. Check, Chumpley. And he goes to here. And I'm thinking, now watch this. Yo, Bubba. I'm going to get two little ladies. One more move and I got a double queen. And you had. Yeah. Yeah. Who's your daddy now, Bubba? So he comes up to queen e4. Check. And I go, no problem. f6. And he goes, queen c6. And I go, not a problem. King e7. And then he goes, queen b7. And I go, not a problem. King d8. And he goes, queen d5. And I go, not a problem. King e7. So it's just a matter of making it so that I can get that second queen, and I'm there. Yeah. Queen e4 check. And I go, king d6. And he goes, queen d4 check. And I go, king e7. And he goes, queen e3 check. And I go, for Pete's sake, will you knock it off already? Enough checks, I got a game to win here. Queen d4 check. And I go, okay, man, king e7. And he goes, queen to e4 check. And I go, king to f7. Yeah, I'll get away from this. Queen to f5 check. And I go, king e8. And then he'll go, queen to e6 check. And I'm thinking, ooh, he's getting close. If he brings that king down there, thank goodness his king's not around me, or I could be in real trouble, yeah? And then queen d5 check, and then king c7. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to figure something out. I've got, this is not working. This is not working. King d8, and he goes, queen to d5. And it ended up a draw because of the threefold repetition. And I did not see that coming. So I sat there just stunned, and I'm going, man, I am up material big time. I am just right there on the verge. And he would not stop checking me. So I ended up a draw. And there's the lesson. If you are in a position of white, and your opponent has queened, and then you queen directly after, if they stop making forcing moves, you never stop making forcing moves. Now, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I drew, but that's a loss. That's only half a point. If this had been a championship game and I needed the win, I just lost. Yeah. So, hard lesson. Not a win, but a very powerful lesson for an endgame technique, a strategy. And I haven't gone through this game a lot. I need to find, well, where I went wrong was pushing the pawn. Where I went wrong was pushing that pawn. I really should have, I should have kept checking him somehow. I'm not quite sure. I needed to keep checking him. I needed to somehow drive his king up into here and check him by pushing the pawn. Or so. I don't know if that's possible. I have no idea. But the moment I gave him one move, he never stopped checking me. And I ended up doing a threefold repetition without realizing it. So there is your endgame chess lesson. Even though you're down in material, or if you're like me, if you're up in material, be real careful about the draw through threefold repetition and about losing, even though you clearly have a material superiority like I did. So, hard lesson to learn, but there it is. So, thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Chess videos. I've had a comment asking how can you make a donation to me, which is so kind. Thank you. I appreciate that truly. My videos have the ads on them. If you wish to donate or contribute to help me out a little bit, that would be very kind. Click on those ads, and especially if there's a product that you really find that you wanted or that you would like or whatever, buy that product through that ad. That would be wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate it. In the meantime, remember, you are awesome. I suck at chess, but I'm getting a little bit better. These training games, I suspect in a few more months, I can be picking up better steam. But I have a lot of endgame studies to show you with my training games that are awesome. I mean, different kinds of endgames with kings and bishops. If you have a king and a bishop and your opponent has a king and a knight and you each have 3 pawns and they're scattered all over, or if you each have 2 knights and all your pawns are on one side, you know, things like that. Endgames that are just so difficult to know, what do I do now? I have several of those coming up. So I've been working on them, putting them together, composing them, creating them. So anyway, thank you again. I appreciate all your help. I appreciate your enthusiasm too. You guys are as enthusiastic about this as I am. Some of you every now and then will say, yeah, you know, you bumped my rating from 800 to 1400. I am so jealous of you. I'm not that strong yet. I'm working on it though. Now that I have Yusupov and Silman, give me 3 more years. I'll catch you. Yeah, baby. In the meantime, we're climbing this mountain together. You are ahead of me, throwing me the rope to tie around my waist so you can pull me up it. And I thank you for it. So, hey, I will see you guys in the next chess video.